Have you always wanted to start your own business? Do you have an innovative idea or an invention, but just don't know how to turn it into a company? Are you already in business and need some help growing? The BRF's Entrepreneurial Accelerator Program can help. At EAP, we work alongside you, helping you with things like financial modeling, funding strategy, pitch preparation, and marketing strategy. So what are you waiting for? Go to eapla.com today and set up a time to talk with our team. Let EAP help you launch or grow your business in North Louisiana today.
Welcome back to On the Cusp. My co-host Matt Snyder's back with me. And with us today is one of our EAP portfolio companies, SBCC, and retired General Gerald Goodfellow. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Matt. I'm happy to be on, that's for sure.
Well, definitely. And tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, because you're really unique, okay, in that you're a veteran-owned company, and we don't see those a lot in Shreveport.
Was in the Air Force for about 30 and a half years. Was stationed out at Global Strike Command here in the Shreveport-Bossier area. And, after 30 and a half years, I decided to retire. And, I looked around and I saw a lot of opportunity based on, just the defense need. There was a lot of need to bring new capabilities into what Global Strike Command was doing. It was a really friendly community in terms of starting a business. And, most of that was, actually through an organization you run called the Entrepreneur Accelerator Program. I was able to come down here and, talk to you and John George, I remember, and you gave me like almost the full day to discuss what I was looking at doing. And you said, okay, we're going to help you all we can. And you did, my whole business idea was, believing that we could bring greater technologies, better technologies for the nation's defense, into government at an increased rate of speed, something, faster than government could do it by itself. And so that was the idea of the company, and that's what we started doing. And, it was fairly easy to get a business going here with regard to, part of that was my expertise in working with the military. But, I had no real, small business expertise, but I found an organization in BRF and EAP that had that, and so I could get the mentoring I needed on that end, and it just it started and kind of took off.
And how many employees do you have now? 2 years in.
Yeah, about 2 years and 5 months in, and we have probably about 45 full-time equivalent people. That kind of, if we were to do it that way, if you work, if there's 2,080 hours in a year, I got about 45 people, I guess it would, times 2,080 hours. But altogether, we live in a gig economy, right? So I have a whole bunch of people that work anywhere from a few hours a month, to, that we're paying for their expertise, to people who are working full-time. But when you add that all together, the full and part-timers, we have about 101 people that are working with our company or for our company.
And I like to tell people, you're paying state income tax in how many states?
I think right now we have 19 states in the District of Columbia. We're paying payroll taxes, but the biggest payroll, the place where we have actually the most employees in the company is here in Louisiana.
Right, in Louisiana. You picked that because you could have picked, you had the opportunity to pick a lot of locations.
We did.
Okay, and you felt Shreveport was the right place for your company.
I did. For the headquarters of the company, there was a lot of reasons, and I just discussed those reasons, but I knew we were going to go to other places too, and we have. So we've got an office now, for lack of a better way to describe it, a number of people working in San Antonio, Texas, that are working for Air Education Training Command. We're doing stuff for them. We're getting ready to start another organization, hopefully, later in the year with Air Mobility Command. And we're looking at, ultimately I think we'll be in about 5 different places that are basically accelerating technology. And that's our goal, is to accelerate technology for the military.
So when you looked at where you wanted to start this, what were your top reasons to choose to do it here?
When you retire, and I retired as a general officer from the Air Force, they send you to a little course, because believe it or not, general officers, all they've ever wanted to do is be in the military. It's all they've ever done. It's like, hey, how do you transition out? So they actually have it's called a transition assistance course, right? They send you to, and it's actually a really good course that they put you through. It's like a week long, and it's like, hey, here's the things you should be thinking about. And there's people in there that are thinking they'll do everything from, starting their own businesses to, going to work for some company, or, full up retiring, because most people at that point really can, with their military retirement, full up retire. But most people, because you're still fairly young, even after 30 years in the military, I was only 52 years old, right? And they tell you should think of 3 things, when you go into retirement, or what's the most important of these 3 things. Is it where you want to live? Do you want your job to have a lot of meaning? So is it what you do, where you live, what you do, or is it making the most money that you can? And they say those are kind of the 3 things you got to figure out. Which one of those is most important to you? And for me, what I do was the most important. I always said, look, as long as my wife is with me, I can live anywhere. We're friends, we're close, and we've lived in some great places. We lived in some not so great places, but as long as she's with me, I was good. So it didn't matter where we lived. She feels the same way. And I really, I had a retirement check from the Air Force, so I knew, I could live. I didn't really have to have a high-paying job, and so, how much money I made didn't really matter to me, but what I did mattered to me. And I believe there was something that I could do that would help the nation's defense if I was able to do it. And, it took me a little over a year from the time I retired to decide that, hey, I needed to go out and start a business and be the guy who makes decisions in that business in order to have the impact I was hoping to have. So it was all about the job. And it just so happened that I believe Shreveport-Bossier area was the best place I could do that, based on, what I knew was going on, like at Global Strike Command. So it was a no-brainer, actually.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen for a lot of people.
We always talk about that the military services, from an outsider, there seems to be a whole lot of opportunity there that's not being fully taken advantage of, the servicing of Barksdale, I guess, in general.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Matt. There's a thing we're actually working on, and I think the good thing about it is the Barksdale Air Force Base leadership. I should say the Global Strike Command leadership. The generals in Global Strike Command, starting at the very top with General Boussier, and General Armagost comes ultimately to mind. They got a new guy coming in to be the guy who really does look at capabilities, a guy by the name of General Ty Newman. And these are really good guys, right? And they are really interested in bringing the best technologies to the warfighter, right? So it just so happened that they had a group of generals there that that I knew for a fact wanted to bring the best capability to the warfighting mission that Global Strike Command does, right? They believe deeply that what we do is the thing that has created peace for the world. To be honest, people don't talk much about nuclear deterrence anymore, but it is the thing that has brought peace to the world for almost the last 80 years now, right? I always say, God forbid, that we ever have a nuclear war. But I'll tell you what, you have to be able. The only way to deter a nuclear war is through your own nuclear war capabilities. Right. I believe within Global Strike Command, our job is to make sure that nuclear deterrent is ready every second of every day. We have to make sure it works. That if we decide we're going to launch a nuclear weapon, for instance, again, God forbid. But if we ever have to do that, if it's ever ordered that it's in fact going to happen, They're going to go where they're supposed to go, and more importantly, if you really think your primary job day to day is deterrence, the enemy has to believe all that stuff is going to work, and they're not going to be able to use some cyber capability to keep those missiles from coming out of the silos, or some cyber capability from not having those missiles hit the target, or some cyber capability that keeps a B-52 from taking off. Those are real threats today.
Wow.
And those guys are those guys were really interested in making, and there's so much that goes into that, from training the airmen to having the best equipment, to having the most up-to-date technology, right? And they were interested in all of those things. And I happen to know that.
That sounds like a lot of opportunity when you say that.
Oh, there was opportunity everywhere.
And people don't look at it that way. And it's everything from a better training platform all the way to new technology for intercontinental ballistic missiles. Because, we, the BRF, when we look at Air Force Global Strike Command and Barksdale Air Force Base, we're all about economic development. We want every possible business that's providing technology to the Air Force, we want them located here.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates us, doing that.
Yeah. So Dave, it was just, it happened to be that I was here and I saw all this opportunity that existed here. I don't know if I was unique in that or not. Entrepreneurs come in all different flavors. I'd had this big background in the military, so I knew a lot about the military. So obviously, it was very natural for me to say, I know where I can believe I can help make the military better, right? But I had a guy ask me, it's a young guy, he's like 26 years old, he's a son of a really close friend of mine. And, but he's interested, his dad is gonna do some part-time work with my company. And so he was, in addition to being an airline pilot, he's working part-time with my company, his dad is. But he's very interested in what his dad's going to do with my company. We're talking about it. And at some point, his son, this very smart guy, he says, so what's the most surprising thing you found out after getting out of the military? His dad is just retiring, and they've had an Air Force life as a family. And he says, so what is the most surprising thing that's happened to you? And I don't know where the answer came from, but it came instantaneously and it was the right answer. I said, the most surprising thing to me is all the opportunity. It seems like every day, everywhere I look, there's opportunity to do something that's gonna a business thing, right? You're able to do it. So in the air,
you have such a unique lens
that
other people don't have from being in the military that way. So that's an interesting, that feels like how you get more things being developed for the military.
Matt, I wonder, we all come up with different experience and different educations, right? I certainly wasn't ready to be an entrepreneur, for instance, when I was in my 20s. I didn't know enough about anything probably to have been an effective entrepreneur.
That's the only reason I'm a successful entrepreneur, because I started when I knew nothing and just jumped around doing trying crazy stuff.
Learn as you went. Right?
So now I'd be scared to death to do any of that.
Right. I get what you're talking about, Matt. So it was less scary for me actually, because I kind of knew some things, right? But I wonder if that's, when I tell that guy, hey, it was all the opportunity, is that the way I made up? Because I don't know that I saw that opportunity in the military. I must have. I did okay in the military, so maybe the opportunity was just different. But there was opportunity on the outside that I never could have acted on in the military, because there would have been like a legal conflict of interest, or I had insider information, something, right? And when I got out of the Air Force, it was like, hey, a lot of that stuff no longer existed, right? And so I would say, oh, there's an opportunity. No, as a business person, I can act on that opportunity, and it's legal and there's no conflict of interest, all those kinds of things that weren't maybe, I guess I wasn't looking at it from a business perspective. But so I don't know, Matt, you tell me, you talked about, you just told a funny story, right? But you as an entrepreneur, within your field of entrepreneurship, do you see opportunity all the time?
Oh, tons, yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm a culture guy. Yeah. So I'm always looking at what I'm seeing in other places and can it fit in our
Right.
environment? And I'm always coming and fighting Dave on we need more culture and we need more.
And I'm more
events.
jobs.
And
I'm
Dave's
saying,
telling me we need more jobs, and that's kind
You
of
want
hard.
culture, you generate jobs, you'll get all the culture you want.
Yeah, my
Okay?
biggest thing is not overdoing all the, seeing so many opportunities. I think Shreveport has a lot of opportunities, and some of them get filled, and but there's always more. We always kind of lag. I mean, the long-term saying has been Shreveport-Bossier's been X amount of years behind Dallas. So,
Right.
I mean, you take a trip or two to a city, you can come back with plenty of opportunity ideas. It's just figuring out which ones are going to work in our market
Right.
is what I work with a lot.
And for me, as an accelerator, I'll tell you, and everybody in EAP and the BRF kind of has the same approach. Our job is not to tell you your idea is a bad idea. If you see opportunity, then our job is to help you develop an offering and a way to reach that opportunity, get to that market, make it happen. I don't ever want to be the guy or the organization that says, oh, you're never going to be able to launch that business or anything like that. You won't hear that from us. What we want is, people like you and Matt in Shreveport that see opportunity, and then they don't worry about the obstacles, okay? Because if you let people throw all the obstacles up in front of you, well, you'll never move forward because you can't breach them. You can't get there.
It's the same. Now you're talking about leadership. So in the military, I used to say, if you want to do something and you start to do it, there's always going to be at least one person who's going to try to stop you from doing it. It's going to say it's a bad idea. They're going to say, hey, you're in my lane. You're in whatever. And what's interesting is I did meet a lot of people that, they would stop at the first no. And then I met a lot of people that not only didn't stop at the first no, they stopped at they never stopped, and they heard, dozens of no's, but they never stopped and they got it done, right? And I suspect it's the same for entrepreneurs. Obviously some entrepreneurs succeed and some entrepreneurs fail. But if I were to give somebody my best advice on something like this, I'd say, look, if you are following your passion, if you're passionate about what you're trying to do, and I work with companies, we got about 40 companies we work with all the time. And I'm working with a company and there's like, the CEO of the company is an MIT graduate mechanical engineer. And I think he's got about 7 other MIT mechanical engineers. And all day long, those guys, what they think about is how are we going to lift something better? Like lift heavy things better. And they're doing it. They're selling a bunch of stuff on the commercial market. We're looking at them on how we might load bombs quicker onto airplanes, these kinds of things. But those guys are passionate about lift. Of all,
Right.
I should say of all things, I kind of get it. They really get a high from saying, look at this thing that we can, this technology we're working, all belt driven, no hydraulics, all those kinds of things, and look at how much better it lifts a bomb. And and oh, by the way, when we put this technology on the back of a loading truck, we don't have to keep the loading truck idling like you always see in the big cities. They're idling, and it's actually the lift mechanism that charges the batteries. The up and down actually charges the batteries of what they're doing.
That's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and they're passionate about lift. So I would tell if you're an entrepreneur and you're not passionate about what you're doing, I don't know how you do that. I'm sure there's people that exist like that, but I just don't know how they do it.
That's why I think entrepreneurs, like, even if they don't hit on that idea, you'll eventually see them hit on something,
right?
Because they have that passion and that drive
right.
to go and turn when you have to turn.
In my own company, and it's happened. There are somebody will come to me and they have an idea, and I can tell they're passionate about it. And I'll say, okay, let's do it. And I'll put them in charge of it. I'll resource them. I'll do all those kinds of things, right? And what's interesting is that's happened a couple of times already, and they've turned it to entirely different business lanes.
Yeah, it's cool.
Right? So I talk about we do technology acceleration, but we're teaching courses, in leadership and in wargaming and other things that people are, because I had some people who are really passionate about education.
Cool.
And it became a whole different business line, right? I've got some people who are really passionate right now on bringing capital to, like private capital to what we're doing. And I think that's going to turn into, a big, private, where some private capital will get brought to our, to the companies we're working with,
Right.
And so there's, it's just, different people bring you passionate ideas.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find out, hey, this is one I want to be involved in because I got somebody who's really passionate about
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Definitely. Creating
so-
opportunities for
Yeah.
the people within your organization, is key. You want to retain them?
Right.
That'll do it because
Yeah.
they feel appreciated and that's something they want to do. Well, hey, we're at time. And Gerald,
great.
thank you. This has been great. We want all of the veteran-owned, we want people to know that if you're a veteran and you want to launch a business in Northwest Louisiana,
We got a lot to offer.
we got a lot to offer.
We got a lot of
There's
land, we got a lot of availability.
There's opportunity there.
There is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Matt,
Thanks,
thank
man.
you.
That was great. Thank
Very
you.
good.